Captain Jake Morrison stared at the screen in front of him. His hands gripped the armrests of his command chair so hard that his knuckles turned white. The display showed something that should not be there. Something impossible. 50 alien ships had appeared at the edge of the solar system. Jake commanded the Liberty Watch, an orbital defense station that circled Earth. His job was to watch for threats from space. Asteroids, space debris, maybe even hostile satellites from other countries. He had never expected to see alien ships. "Are you seeing this?" Lieutenant Amy Richardson asked from her station. Her voice shook slightly. "Tell me the sensors are broken." "They're not broken," Jake said quietly. He had already run 3 diagnostic checks. The readings were clear. The ships were real. The objects on the screen were massive. Each one was larger than any spacecraft humanity had ever built. They hung in the darkness of space like silent predators, waiting to strike. Jake reached for the communication panel. His hand trembled as he pressed the button. "Liberty Watch to Earth Command. We have a situation. I need to speak with Director Volkov immediately." The response came faster than he expected. Within 2 minutes, the face of Director Maria Volkov appeared on his screen. She was a tall woman, with steel-gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. She had been in charge of Earth's unified defense network for 5 years. "Captain Morrison, what is the nature of this emergency?" Maria asked. "Director, we have detected 50 unknown vessels at the outer edge of the solar system. They appeared without warning. The size and technology level are far beyond anything we possess." Maria's expression did not change. But Jake saw her jaw tighten. "Send me all the data you have. Keep monitoring them. Do not attempt to make contact." "Yes, Director." The next hour passed in tense silence. Jake and his crew watched the alien fleet. The ships did not move. They simply waited. Jake felt like an ant, staring up at a boot, waiting to see if it would crush him. Then the communication came. The main screen in the command center flickered. The image of Maria Volkov disappeared. In its place came something else. Something alien. The creature on the screen had gray skin stretched tight over a skull-like face. Its eyes were large and black, without any white or pupil that Jake could see. When it spoke, its mouth barely moved, but the words came through in perfect English. "Humans of Earth. I am Commander Vex of the Vorath Empire. Your world has been selected for annexation. You have 72 hours to surrender your planet and accept integration into the Empire. If you refuse, you will be eliminated." Jake felt his blood turn to ice. Around him, his crew sat frozen in their chairs. "We have already deployed our quantum dispersal device," Commander Vex continued. "It is currently traveling through folded space toward your world. In 3 days, it will reach Earth's core. The resulting reaction will collapse your planet into a black hole. This black hole will consume your entire inner solar system." The screen showed an image. Jake saw a massive, bomb-shaped object moving through a strange tunnel of twisted space. Energy crackled around it, like purple lightning. "This is inevitable," Vex said. "Surrender, and we will stop the device. Your people will become servants of the Empire, but you will live. Resist, and you will all die. You have 72 hours to decide." The screen went black. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Amy broke the silence. "Did that really just happen?" Jake nodded slowly. He felt numb. "Get me the director again." The next few hours were chaos. Jake watched from his station as Earth's military scrambled into action. Every ship, every weapon, every piece of defense technology that humanity possessed was activated and prepared. It was not enough. Jake knew it. Everyone knew it. The analysis teams at Earth Command ran the numbers again and again. The result was always the same. Earth's technology was hundreds of years behind the Vorath. The quantum bomb traveled through dimensions that humanity barely understood. Intercepting it was nearly impossible. Destroying it was completely impossible. Jake watched the countdown timer on his screen. 72 hours. Then 69. Then 65. Time kept moving forward, like a river flowing toward a waterfall. In Geneva, at the United Earth Command headquarters, Maria Volkov stood in the main operations center. Around her, hundreds of people worked at computers and communication stations. Giant screens on the walls showed maps, data streams, and images of the approaching bomb. Major Brandon Cole approached her. He was a solid man with short dark hair and the weathered face of someone who had seen combat. He commanded the special operations team responsible for protecting world leaders. "Director, we've begun evacuation procedures," Brandon said. "The bunkers are being prepared. We can have the primary leadership underground within 12 hours. Maria nodded but did not look away from the screens. "How long can the bunkers sustain life?" "If the black hole scenario happens as the Vorath described, the bunkers won't matter. Nothing will survive." "I know," Maria said quietly. "But we prepare anyway. We do everything we can, until the last possible moment." Brandon hesitated. "Ma'am, do you think there's any chance?" "There's always a chance, Major, even if I can't see it yet." Across the world, people reacted to the news in different ways. Some panicked. Riots broke out in major cities. Others became very quiet, spending time with their families. Religious leaders held services. Scientists worked desperately on impossible solutions. The television networks broadcast images of families saying goodbye. Parents held their children. Lovers embraced. Old enemies shook hands and forgave past wrongs. Humanity faced the end of everything. Far from the cities and the chaos, in a remote village deep in the Siberian wilderness, an old woman worked in her garden. Her name was Yelena Morozova. Though she had used many names over the centuries, the villagers knew her as the strange old woman who lived alone in the forest. Her house was unusual. It stood on what looked like two large wooden posts, carved to look like chicken legs. Children whispered stories about her, calling her a witch. They were not completely wrong. Yelena straightened up from her garden and looked at the sky. She could not see the alien ships with her eyes, but she could feel them. She could sense the quantum bomb tearing through the fabric of space, moving closer to Earth with every passing second. She had lived on this planet for thousands of years. She had watched humanity grow from primitive tribes into a global civilization. She had seen them learn to fly, to split the atom, to reach for the stars. She had promised herself she would not interfere. Humanity needed to find its own path, make its own mistakes, achieve its own victories. But this was different. This was extinction. Yelena walked to her house. The door opened before she touched it. Inside, the space was much larger than the outside suggested. The walls were covered with objects that looked old and rustic, but hummed with power that no human technology could match. She sat in her chair and closed her eyes. She needed to think. She needed to decide. After a long moment, she opened her eyes and smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of something ancient and powerful that had just decided to stop hiding. "Very well," she said to the empty room. "If the Vorath want to play with Earth, they will have to go through Baba Yaga first." The house shuddered slightly, as if it understood her words and approved. Amy Richardson had not slept in 30 hours. Her eyes burned as she stared at the tracking data flowing across her screens. The quantum bomb was getting closer. Every hour brought it nearer to Earth. She worked at a deep space monitoring station called Horizon I. The station orbited beyond the moon, equipped with the most sensitive detection equipment humanity had ever built. Right now, those sensors were locked onto the approaching weapon. "There's something strange about the trajectory," Amy said to her colleague, Lieutenant Kevin Park. Kevin floated over to her station. "In zero gravity, movement was more like swimming than walking." "What do you mean?" "Look at this path." Amy pointed at the curved line on her display. "The bomb isn't taking the most direct route. It's going to pass through this specific point in space. She highlighted a region on the map. Endoxes. Maybe it needs to exit folded space there? Kevin suggested. Maybe. But look at the readings from that area. There are unusual gravity fluctuations. Almost like something is there. But our sensors can't detect it properly. Kevin frowned. Could be a navigation beacon for the Vorath? Not. Could be, Amy said. But she did not sound convinced. Something about the readings bothered her. But she could not figure out what. On Earth, the situation grew more desperate by the hour. Major Brandon Cole stood in a military transport as it lifted off from Geneva. His team was moving government leaders to secure locations. Not that it would matter if the Vorath bomb succeeded. Brandon's earpiece crackled. Major Cole, this is command. We need you back at headquarters immediately. I'm in the middle of an evacuation run, Brandon replied. Understood, but this is priority 1. Director Volkov specifically requested you. Brandon signaled his second-in-command to take over. 20 minutes later, he walked into the operations center, where Maria Volkov waited. We received an unusual communication, Maria said without greeting. She looked tired. They all did. A woman called our emergency line. She claims she can help stop the Vorath weapon. Brandon felt a flash of anger. Director, we're getting hundreds of calls like that. People claiming they have solutions. Religious groups saying prayer will save us. Scientists with impossible theories. I know. But this woman knew details about the bomb that we haven't released to the public. She described the quantum field configuration exactly. She knew the precise timing of its arrival. That got Brandon's attention. Who is she? She gave her name as Yelena Morozova. The call was traced to a remote village in Siberia, a place called Sokolovo. The strange part is, there's no communication infrastructure there. No cell towers, no internet cables. Nothing that could have made that call possible. Brandon studied the map Maria pulled up on her screen. Sokolovo was in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by deep forest. You want me to check it out? Brandon said. I want you to lead a team there. Find out who this woman is, and how she knows what she knows. We have 48 hours left. I'll take any chance, no matter how small. 6 hours later, Brandon and a team of 5 soldiers stood in the center of Sokolovo. The village consisted of maybe 20 houses scattered among the trees. The people who lived here seemed surprised to see military personnel but not particularly worried about the end of the world. Life here moved at a different pace. An old man directed them to a path leading into the forest. You want Yelena's house. Follow the trail for 2 kilometers. You'll know it when you see it. The team moved through the forest in tactical formation. Brandon led the way. Behind him came Captain Nicole Sanders, his best soldier and the person he trusted most. This feels like a waste of time, Nicole said quietly. Probably is, Brandon agreed. But orders are orders. They found the house after 20 minutes of hiking. Brandon stopped at the edge of the clearing and stared. The house looked like something from a fairy tale. It was made of dark wood with intricate carvings covering every surface. But the most unusual feature was what it stood on. 2 massive posts carved to look like chicken legs supported the entire structure. What the hell is that? One of the soldiers muttered. Before Brandon could answer, the front door opened. An old woman stepped out onto the porch. She wore a simple dress and a headscarf. Her face was wrinkled, her hands gnarled with age, but her eyes were sharp and bright. You took your time, she said in accented English. I expected you hours ago. Come inside. We have much to discuss. Brandon exchanged glances with Nicole. They approached carefully, weapons lowered but ready. The inside of the house did not match the outside. The exterior was maybe 30 feet wide. Inside, the space stretched much larger. Brandon saw rooms leading off in directions that should not exist based on the building's external dimensions. That's not possible, Nicole whispered. Very little is impossible, Yelena said. She gestured to a large wooden table. Sit. I will make tea. 7. Ma'am, We don't have time for tea. Yelena looked at him, and suddenly Brandon felt like a child being scolded. You have time. The bomb will not reach Earth for another 47 hours and 13 minutes. Tea will take 5 minutes to prepare. Sit. They sat. While Yelena prepared tea at an old-fashioned stove, Brandon looked around the room. What he had first taken as rustic decorations now looked different. A wooden shelf held what appeared to be star charts, but they showed galaxies humanity had never seen. A mortar and pestle on the counter glowed faintly with blue light. Hanging on the walls were objects that looked like tools but hummed with barely contained energy. Yelena brought the tea and sat across from them. You want to know how I knew about the Vorath weapon? You want to know if I can truly help? You want to know what I am? Yes, Brandon said simply. I am old, Yelena said. Older than your civilization. Older than your species' history. I came to this world when your ancestors were still learning to use fire. I am what your folklore calls Baba Yaga. Nicole laughed, then stopped when she saw Yelena's expression. You think I'm insane, Yelena said. You think I'm a crazy old woman in the woods. But look around you. This house is bigger inside than outside. Your weapons detected energy signatures in this room that you cannot explain. Your rational mind tells you this is impossible. But your eyes tell you it is real. Brandon set down his tea. Let's say I believe you. Why contact us now? If you're so powerful, why not just stop the bomb yourself? Because I made a promise long ago. I would not interfere in humanity's development. I would watch and wait. Let you grow. Let you make your own choices. Your own mistakes. But the Vorath are not your mistake. They are an outside force that will end your species before it truly begins. That I cannot allow. Why do you care? Nicole asked. Yelena smiled. Because in all my long existence, I have never seen a species quite like yours. Humans are stubborn, foolish sometimes, but you have something special. You face impossible odds and fight anyway. You fall and get back up. You reach for the stars knowing you might fail. That quality is rare in the universe. Worth preserving. Brandon leaned forward. Can you really stop the bomb? Yes. But there is a price. If I break my vow and interfere, I must leave Earth when this is over. That is the rule I set for myself. More importantly, I will not fight your battle for you. Humanity must stand with me. You must prove you deserve to survive. Your people must be willing to fight alongside me, even knowing they might die. We're already willing to die, Nicole said. Dying is easy. Fighting, when death seems certain, is harder. That is what I need to see. And 12. And dying is what I need to see. Brandon pulled out his radio. I need to contact my director. Of course. But hurry. Time flows quickly. And the Vorath weapon does not slow down. Brandon stepped outside to make the call. He felt like he was losing his mind. But everything he had seen was real. The impossible house. The technology that should not exist. The old woman who knew things she could not possibly know. When Maria Volkov answered, Brandon took a deep breath. Director, you're not going to believe this. But I need you to listen to everything I'm about to tell you. He explained everything. The house. Yelena's claims. Her offer to help. When he finished, there was a long silence on the other end. Finally, Maria spoke. Put her on the line. Brandon went back inside and handed his radio to Yelena. She took it and spoke calmly. Director Volkov, you have a decision to make. Accept my help and commit your forces to stand with me, or face the Vorath alone. How do I know you're real? Maria asked. How do I know this isn't some trick? You don't, but you have 47 hours until extinction. What do you have to lose? Another pause. Then, what do you need from us? Courage, Yelena said simply. Nothing more, nothing less. The Emergency Council met in a secure bunker beneath Geneva. 50 leaders from every major nation sat around a circular table. Above them, screens displayed the countdown. 39 hours remained. Maria Volkov stood at the center. She looked exhausted but determined. We have been contacted by an entity claiming she can stop the Voreth weapon. I have sent a team to verify her capabilities. What they found defies explanation, but it may be our only chance. What kind of entity? Asked President Graham, of North America. She calls herself Baba Yaga. She claims to be thousands of years old, an ancient being who has lived on Earth since before recorded history. The room erupted. Voices overlapped, some shouting that this was nonsense, others demanding more information. Maria raised her hand for silence. I know how it sounds, but Major Cole's team has seen technology far beyond anything we possess. The woman knew details about the Vorath bomb that were classified. She has offered to help us, but with conditions. What conditions? Asked Chancellor Liu from the Asian Coalition. She will not fight alone. Human forces must participate in the defense. We must prove we deserve to survive by standing with her, even if it seems hopeless. That's insane, someone said. Our weapons can't touch the Vorath. We'd be sending people to die for nothing. Perhaps, Maria said. Or perhaps she needs to see that we won't hide while someone else saves us, that we're willing to fight for our world. The debate raged for 2 hours. Some argued that accepting help from an unknown being was too dangerous. What if it was a trick? What if this Baba Yaga was actually working with the Vorath? Others pointed out that they had no choice. Every simulation showed the same result. Without help, Earth would become a black hole in less than 2 days. Finally, Premier Volkov of the Russian Federation stood. He was an old man who had lived through 3 wars. My grandmother told me stories of Baba Yaga when I was a child. She lived in a house on chicken legs. She was dangerous, unpredictable, but she protected those who showed courage. If even a small part of those stories is true, we would be fools to refuse her help. President Graham nodded slowly. I agree. We accept her offer. But I want our best people involved. If we're going to fight, we fight smart. Maria felt something loosen in her chest. She had the authorization she needed. I'll contact Major Cole immediately. Back in Siberia, Brandon and his team had spent hours in Yelena's house. The old woman showed them things that challenged everything they thought they knew about reality. She took them to a room where the walls displayed star charts that moved and shifted. The Vorath Empire controls 11,000 systems, she explained. They have been expanding for 10,000 years. They believe they are the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. Number, they're wrong? Nicole asked. Very wrong. They are children playing with tools they barely understand. True ancient civilizations existed billions of years before the Vorath crawled from their ocean. I am one of the last who remembers those times. She showed them her mortar and pestle. Up close, Brandon could see that they were not made of wood at all. The material looked organic, almost alive. Strange symbols covered the surface, glowing and fading in patterns. These are weapons, Yelena said. They were forged in the heart of a dying star by beings whose names are forgotten. They can tear holes in space itself. They can unmake matter at the quantum level. And you'll use them against the bomb? Brandon asked. I will use them against the bomb, and any Vorath ships foolish enough to stay and fight. Brandon's radio crackled. Maria's voice came through. Major Cole, the Council has approved the alliance. Tell your host that Earth accepts her terms. We will fight alongside her. Yelena smiled. Good. Now we prepare. Captain Sanders, you will be my liaison. You will coordinate between your forces and my actions. Major Cole, you will return to Earth and organize the defense fleet. Tell them to be ready to move in 24 hours. Where will we be moving? Nicole asked. to the point where the bomb will exit folded space. I will be there waiting. Your ships will support me. Support you how? Brandon pressed. Our weapons can't hurt the Vorath technology. Not yet. But I will extend my shields to cover your fighters. Inside that protection, your weapons will be enhanced. You will be able to hurt them. Not as effectively as I can, but enough to make a difference. Brandon left with most of his team. Nicole stayed behind as ordered. She watched as Yelena walked through her house, touching objects and speaking words in a language that made Nicole's head ache to hear. You're really going to leave Earth after this? Nicole asked. I must. Those are the rules I set for myself long ago. If I interfere, I cannot stay. I have bent that rule many times over the centuries, small nudges here and there, but this is direct action. This breaks the vow completely. Will you miss it? Earth, I mean? Yelena paused at a window that looked out over the forest. More than you can imagine. I have watched your species grow from scattered tribes into a civilization that reaches for the stars. I have walked among you, lived with you, loved some of you. This world is my home. But some things are more important than what I want. Nicole felt a lump in her throat. Thank you. For caring enough to help us. Don't thank me yet. The battle has not been won. The Vorath are not fools. They will fight hard to destroy your world. Over the next 18 hours, Earth's military mobilized. Every functional spacecraft was prepared for combat. Fighter pilots, who had only trained in simulations, were rushed through emergency briefings. Scientists worked to understand the basic principles Yelena had shared, trying to integrate human weapons with her enhanced shields. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of Liberty Watch and watched the fleet assemble. Dozens of ships gathered in orbit. They were not an impressive sight. Most were converted civilian vessels, with military weapons bolted on. A few were genuine warships, but nothing that could match the Vorath technology. It's not much of a fleet, Amy said beside him. It's what we have, Jake replied. Besides, we're not supposed to win this fight alone. We just have to show we're willing to try. Lieutenant Kevin Park sat in the cockpit of his fighter and ran through his final checks. He was part of Raven Flight, 12 pilots, chosen to fly escort for Baba Yaga's ship. They were considered the best Earth had, which Kevin found both flattering and terrifying. All pilots, this is command, a voice said through his headset. The target has been designated. Baba Yaga's vessel will arrive at the intercept point in 1 hour. All ships will jump to that location in 45 minutes. Remember your training. Stay in formation. Do not break away from the shield envelope. Roger that, Command, Kevin replied along with the others. He wondered what Baba Yaga's ship would look like. He had heard rumors from Major Cole's team. A house that flew through space. Technology that looked like magic. Part of him thought it was all nonsense. The other part, the part that had seen the Vorath fleet appear from nowhere, believed every word. In her forest home, Yelena stood in the center of her house and closed her eyes. She spoke words in the first language, the tongue spoken by her people before the universe had cooled from its birth. The house responded. The walls began to change. The rustic wood faded, revealing crystalline structures beneath. The chicken leg supports shifted and transformed. The entire building lifted off the ground, rising on columns of light that had no heat but blazed with power. Nicole stood on the porch and watched the forest fall away below them. They rose through the clouds, through the atmosphere, into the black void of space. She should have been freezing and suffocating, but Yelena's power protected her. The house continued to transform. What had appeared as carved wood was now revealed as ancient technology. The structure was grown rather than built, shaped by forces Nicole could not understand. It pulsed with energy, and Nicole could feel it like a heartbeat in her bones. This is your true form, Nicole said in wonder. One of them, Yelena replied. I have worn many forms over the ages. This one is for war. They reached the intercept point just as the human fleet arrived. Nicole saw dozens of Earth ships spreading out in formation. They looked like toys compared to Yelena's vessel. Through the ship's viewing ports, which showed the outside in perfect clarity, Nicole saw the quantum bomb beginning to emerge from folded space. It looked like a crack in reality, purple energy leaking through as something massive forced its way into normal space. "Here it comes," Yelena said. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. "Now we see what humanity is made of." She reached out and touched her mortar and pestle. They rose from their resting place and began to spin. Faster and faster they moved, until they were just blurs of light. "All human ships, this is Baba Yaga," Yelena said, broadcasting on all frequencies. "When I extend my shield, you will feel it. Move inside the barrier. Strike at the bomb with everything you have. Show the Vorath that Earth does not surrender." Jake Morrison heard those words from Liberty Watch's bridge. He watched as Yelena's ship blazed with light, and a shimmering barrier expanded outward, covering the entire fleet. "We're reading massive power fluctuations," Amy reported. "Whatever that shield is, it's covering all our ships." The quantum bomb fully emerged into normal space. It was enormous, easily the size of a skyscraper. Energy crackled around it, and space itself seemed to bend in its presence. "All ships," Jake said into the command channel. Humanity's weapons opened up on the Vorath bomb. Missiles, lasers, railgun rounds. Everything they had. The attacks that would have bounced harmlessly off Vorath shields now struck with enhanced force, backed by Yelena's ancient power. The battle for Earth had begun. The quantum bomb shuddered under the assault. Missiles exploded against its surface, each blast enhanced by Yelena's shield to 100 times its normal power. Laser beams that should have scattered harmlessly instead cut into the alien metal. Kevin Park guided his fighter through a combat roll, firing his railgun as he passed the bomb. The rounds punched through the outer casing, sending fragments spinning into space. Around him, the other 11 members of Raven Flight attacked in coordinated waves. "This is actually working," Kevin's wingman said over the radio. Her name was Lieutenant Sarah Hughes, and she sounded amazed. "We're hurting it." "Don't get cocky," Kevin warned. "Keep your eyes on the sensors. The Vorath fleet could show up any second." Aboard her transformed ship, Yelena worked her ancient magic. Her mortar and pestle spun faster, creating vortices of energy that reached out and grabbed the bomb. The weapon tried to activate its defensive systems, but Yelena's power tore through them like paper. Nicole watched from beside her. The old woman stood perfectly still, but sweat beaded on her forehead. Whatever she was doing required immense concentration. "The bomb's core is exposed," Yelena said. "Now we see what it's really made of." B. She pulled with both hands, and reality itself seemed to bend. Piece by piece, layer by layer, Yelena dismantled the weapon that was supposed to destroy Earth. Then the Vorath fleet arrived. 100 ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel. They appeared in a massive formation, surrounding the human fleet and Yelena's ship. Each Vorath vessel was sleek and deadly, bristling with weapons that had conquered 1,000 worlds. "All ships, enemy contacts." Jake Morrison broadcast from Liberty Watch. "Stay inside the shield perimeter. Do not break formation." The Vorath opened fire immediately. Energy beams and missiles filled the space around Earth's fleet. The attacks struck Yelena's shields and scattered harmlessly. Inside the barrier, the human ships were safe, but they were also trapped. "They're boxing us in," Amy reported. "They know we can't leave the shield. Then we fight from here," Jake said grimly. Aboard the Vorath flagship, Admiral Krezoth studied the tactical display. He was a veteran of 50 campaigns, and nothing in his experience prepared him for what he saw. The primitive human vessels should have been destroyed in seconds. Instead, they fought from behind a shield of unknown origin, and that ship at the center. The strange crystalline structure that blazed with power. What was it? Analysis of the central vessel, Krezoth demanded. His science officer worked frantically at his console. Admiral, the energy readings make no sense. The technology predates anything in our database. It's using principles that shouldn't be possible. Everything is possible. Krezoth snapped. What civilization built it? Unknown. But sir, there are legends. Stories from the early days of the Empire. Tales of ancient ones, who walked the stars before our people existed. This could be nonsense, Krezoth said, but his voice lacked confidence. Focus all fire on that central vessel. Bring every weapon to bear. I want it destroyed. The entire Vorath fleet concentrated their attack on Yelena's ship. 1,000 weapons fired as one. The combined force would have been enough to crack a moon in half. The energy struck Yelena's shields and stopped. The barrier held firm, glowing brighter with each impact. Then, something changed. Yelena raised her hands, and the absorbed energy flowed back toward the Vorath fleet. Their own weapons turned against them, multiplied 100-fold. Vorath ships exploded as their attacks rebounded. Impossible, Krezoth whispered. Yelena's voice filled every Vorath ship, speaking in their own language. But it was not modern Vorath. It was the ancient dialect. The tongue spoken 10,000 years ago, when the Empire was young. Foolish children, you come to my adopted home and threaten those under my protection. You send a weapon to murder a world. Did you truly think there would be no consequence? Krezoth felt ice flow through his veins. The language she spoke was only found in the oldest historical texts. No one alive spoke it anymore. How did this being know? Words that had been dead for millennia. All ships, he ordered, retreat to maximum range. Maintain bombardment, but do not close distance. The Vorath fleet pulled back, firing as they went. Yelena let them retreat. She had other concerns. The quantum bomb was still active, still dangerous, despite the damage. She needed to finish dismantling it before turning her full attention to the fleet. Kevin Park saw an opening. 3 Vorath ships had separated from the main fleet during the retreat. They were isolated, vulnerable. Raven Flight, this is Raven 1, he said. I have targets at Sector 7. 3 enemy ships, minimal support. We can take them. Negative, Raven 1, came the reply from command. Stay in the shield envelope. Kevin looked at the 3 ships. They were moving to flank the human formation. If they got into position, they could fire on Earth's vessels from an angle the shield didn't fully cover. Command, those ships will have a firing solution on our fleet in 90 seconds. We need to engage. There was a pause. Then Jake Morrison's voice came through. You're right. Raven Flight, you are cleared to engage. But stay close to the shield edge. If things go bad, get back inside immediately. Roger that. Raven Flight, form up on me. We're going hunting. 12 fighters broke formation and accelerated toward the 3 Vorath ships. Kevin felt his heart pounding. This was really happening. He was flying into combat against an alien empire. The Vorath ships detected the approaching fighters and opened fire. Energy beams flashed through space. Kevin jinked left, then right, evading the attacks. Beside him, Sarah Hughes took a hit that scorched her wing but kept flying. Targeting lock, Kevin said. Missiles away. 6 missiles launched from Raven Flight. Enhanced by Yelena's power, they struck with devastating force. The first Vorath ship's shields collapsed. The second wave of missiles punched through its hull, and the ship exploded in a ball of fire. First kill, Sarah shouted. We got one. The other 2 Vorath ships tried to flee, but Raven Flight was faster. The human pilots had spent their lives training for this moment, even if they never believed it would come. They flew with precision and skill, targeting weak points, coordinating attacks. Another Vorath ship died. Then the third. Raven Flight, return to formation, Jake ordered. Good work. As the fighters flew back, Kevin looked at his sensor display. The kill count showed 3 Vorath ships destroyed by human forces. It wasn't much compared to the enemy's numbers, but it was something. It was proof that humans could fight back. On her ship, Yelena finished containing the quantum bomb's core. She wrapped it in fields of twisted space-time, creating a prison that nothing could escape from. The weapon was neutralized, but the Vorath fleet was still there, still dangerous. "Nicole," Yelena said, "contact your fleet. Tell them to prepare for close combat. I'm going to bring the fight to the Vorath. They'll try to overwhelm you with numbers," Nicole warned. "Let them try. I have been fighting since before their empire existed. They have forgotten what real war looks like. I will remind them." End quote. I will remind them. Yelena's ship began to move. It did not accelerate gradually like a normal spacecraft. It simply appeared where it wanted to be, jumping through space in ways that violated physics. One moment, it was at the center of the human formation. The next, it was in the middle of the Vorath fleet. Krezoth watched in horror as the Ancient's vessel materialized among his ships. Before he could order evasive action, weapons unlike anything he had seen opened fire. Beams of pure energy lanced out, cutting through Vorath hulls like they were made of paper. Missiles that warped space itself struck ships and made them fold in on themselves. The Ancient's mortar and pestle spun and created gravity wells that crushed vessels into dense spheres of metal. "All ships, scatter," Krezoth ordered. "Do not engage directly. Maintain distance." But Yelena was faster. Her ship moved through the Vorath formation like a shark through a school of fish. Everywhere she went, ships died. The weapons she wielded came from civilizations that had mastered the universe itself. The Vorath technology was advanced, but it was nothing compared to what she possessed. Still, there were 100 Vorath ships. Even Yelena could not be everywhere at once. Some enemy vessels managed to get clear shots. Their weapons struck her shields, draining power with each impact. "Human fleet, this is Baba Yaga," Yelena broadcast. "I need you to draw fire. Split into small groups and harass the enemy. Make them divide their attention." "Can you do this?" Jake Morrison did not hesitate. "All ships, break formation. Alpha Group, follow me. Bravo and Charlie, take your assigned sectors. Keep them busy." Earth's fleet split apart. The ships were still protected by Yelena's shields, which stretched to cover them even at a distance. They moved through the battlefield, firing at targets of opportunity. The Vorath found themselves fighting on multiple fronts. The ancient vessel was a nightmare that destroyed everything it touched. The human ships were gnats, barely worth noticing individually, but they were everywhere. Every time a Vorath captain focused on the ancient, human weapons struck from behind. The battle became chaos. Ships exploded. Energy beams crisscrossed the void. Debris spun through space, colliding with other vessels and causing more damage. And through it all, Yelena fought with the skill of someone who had waged war across countless centuries. She was beautiful and terrible, ancient and unstoppable. Admiral Krezoth realized the truth. They were not going to win this battle. The only question was how many ships he would lose before he retreated. Yelena felt the weight of the battle pressing on her. Each moment required perfect concentration. Each second demanded that she divide her attention between offense, defense, and maintaining the shields that protected the human fleet. She was powerful, but even she had limits. A Vorath destroyer managed to position itself for a clear shot at a cluster of Earth fighters. Its main weapon began charging, building up energy for a blast that would punch through even enhanced shields. Kevin Park saw the targeting lock on his display. His entire squadron was marked. They had seconds before the attack came. "Break and scatter," he ordered. But he knew they would not make it in time. Then Yelena was there. Her ship materialized directly between the destroyer and the fighters. She absorbed the full force of the weapon, her shields flaring brilliant white. The energy dissipated harmlessly, but the effort cost her. 3 other Vorath ships used that moment to concentrate fire on her from different angles. The attacks struck simultaneously. For the first time in the battle, Yelena's shields flickered. "She's weakening," Nicole said, watching the readouts inside the ship. "I'm fine," Yelena replied, but her voice was strained. "I just need to end this quickly." She reached deep into her power reserves, drawing on energy she had stored across centuries. The ship blazed brighter, and the flickering shields solidified. Then she did something the Vorath had not expected. She sent the contained quantum bomb back toward them. The bomb, still wrapped in her fields of twisted space, accelerated to relativistic speeds. It struck the center of the Vorath formation and detonated, not as the world killer it was designed to be, but as a conventional explosion enhanced by Yelena's power. 20 Vorath ships vanished in the blast. Another 30 were damaged badly enough that they could no longer fight. The fleet's formation collapsed into chaos. Admiral Krezoth watched half his fleet die in an instant. His hands shook on his command console. This was not possible. The Empire did not lose battles. The Empire was supreme. But his eyes showed him the truth. The ancient vessel still blazed with power. The human ships still fought with desperate courage. And his fleet was breaking apart. "All remaining ships," he said quietly, "prepare to retreat." "Sir?" His second-in-command asked in disbelief. "You heard me. We cannot win this engagement. We fall back, report to the Empire, and let them decide how to handle this situation. The Empire does not retreat." The officer protested. Krezoth looked at him. "The Empire does not fight ancients. Our legends warn about beings like this. We ignored those warnings. Now we pay the price. Send the retreat order." Yelena saw the Vorath fleet beginning to disengage. Ships that moments ago pressed the attack now burned hard to escape. She could pursue them. She could destroy every last vessel. But that was not her purpose. "Human fleet, cease fire," she broadcast. "Let them go. They have learned their lesson." "Baba Yaga, this is Captain Morrison." Jake's voice came through. "They won't. Watch." Yelena opened a channel to the entire Vorath fleet. She spoke in their ancient language, her words carrying across the void. "Vorath Empire, hear me. I am what your oldest texts call the first walkers. I was old when your world was young. I have seen civilizations rise and fall, like waves on a shore. I chose Earth as my home, and I have watched humanity grow. They are under my protection now." She paused, letting that sink in. Then, she continued, "You came here with weapons of annihilation. You threatened to murder a world. But these humans did not surrender. They stood and fought, knowing they would likely die. That courage is rare in the universe. It is precious. It is worth protecting." Krezoth listened, his blood cold. Every word confirmed his worst fears. "I will let you flee," Yelena said. "One ship will carry my warning back to your empire. The rest of you decide among yourselves who lives and who dies. If you remain, you have 60 seconds. The Vorath fleet panicked. Ships broke formation completely, each captain racing to be among those who escaped. Several vessels collided in their haste. Others fired on their own comrades to clear paths. Krezoth's flagship was fast, built for speed. He engaged maximum thrust and fled toward the edge of the system. Around him, other ships did the same. Behind them, the slowest vessels died as Yelena picked them off one by one. She stopped when 20 ships remained. Enough to serve as witnesses. Enough to spread the story. "Go," she said simply. "Tell your empire that Earth is forbidden. Tell them what happens to those who ignore that warning." The Vorath ships jumped to faster-than-light travel and vanished. In moments, the battlefield was empty, except for debris and the human fleet. Jake Morrison let out a breath he had not realized he was holding. Around him, his crew erupted in cheers. Kevin Park and Ravenflight returned to their carrier. As Kevin climbed out of his cockpit, His legs nearly gave out. The adrenaline that had kept him going drained away all at once. Sarah Hughes caught his arm. "We did it," she said, laughing and crying at the same time. "We actually did it." "Eh? No," Kevin said, looking up at where Yelena's ship hung in space. "She did it. We just showed up." "That's not true," came Yelena's voice through the ship's speakers. "You fought when fleeing, would have been easier. You stood your ground when running, would have been safer. That matters more than you know. The Vorath respect only strength and courage. Today, you showed them both." On Earth, the news spread instantly. The quantum bomb was destroyed. The Vorath fleet had fled. Humanity was safe. Cities that had been preparing for death now erupted in celebration. People danced in the streets. Strangers embraced. Enemies shook hands. In the command bunker beneath Geneva, Maria Volkov watched the tactical display as the last Vorath signatures vanished from sensors. She sat down heavily in her chair and put her face in her hands. Her shoulders shook with silent sobs of relief. Brandon Cole stood beside her and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Director, you kept us together. You made the hard calls. You gave us a chance." Maria looked up at him. "I just said yes when someone offered help. That's not leadership." "It's exactly leadership. You took a risk on something impossible because the alternative was giving up." Yelena's ship descended from orbit. It passed through the atmosphere, trailing fire that did not burn. The crystalline structure began to transform back into the wooden house, the technology hiding itself once more behind a rustic disguise. The house settled in its clearing in the Siberian forest. The chicken legs folded beneath it. To anyone watching, it looked like it had never left. Inside, Yelena sat at her table with Nicole across from her. The old woman looked tired in a way Nicole had not seen before. "Are you all right?" Nicole asked. "I used a lot of power today. It will take time to recover. But I'm fine. More importantly, Earth is fine. Because of you. Because of us. You and your people fought beside me. That's what made the difference. The Vorath will remember that. They will tell others. Word will spread through the galaxy that humans are not prey." Nicole hesitated. "You're really leaving, aren't you?" "I must. I broke my vow to not interfere. If I stay, I will be tempted to interfere again and again. Humanity needs to find its own path now. You've proven you can stand against the galaxy. Now you must prove you can thrive in it." "Will we see you again?" Yelena smiled. "Perhaps. The universe is vast but not infinite. Paths cross in strange ways. But Nicole, even if we never meet again, I will remember you all. I will remember the day humanity showed me why they deserve their place among the stars." Over the next 3 days, Yelena met with Earth's leaders. She gave them gifts for their courage. First, a data archive containing coordinates to ancient sites scattered across the galaxy, places where humanity could find lost technology and forgotten knowledge. Second, the specifications for the shields that had protected their fleet. The technology was simplified, reduced to principles that human science could understand and build upon. Third, a warning. The Vorath were not the only threat in the galaxy. Greater dangers existed. Ancient enemies, cosmic horrors, machine intelligences gone mad. Humanity would need to be strong, clever, and brave to survive. "But you can survive," Yelena said at the final meeting. "You've already proven that. Now go and prove it again and again, until the entire galaxy knows the name Earth." Lieutenant Kevin Park was promoted to captain and given command of a new fighter wing. His squadron became the template for a new generation of defenders, trained to use the enhanced shields and fight alongside ancient technology. Jake Morrison left Liberty Watch to help design new orbital defense platforms. His experience in the battle made him invaluable in planning Earth's next steps into the stars. Nicole Sanders was appointed as Earth's first ambassador to other potential ancient beings. Her job was to seek out others like Yelena, to build bridges with entities that had seen civilizations rise and fall. Brandon Cole returned to his special operations work, but now his missions included protecting scientists, exploring the ancient sites Yelena had revealed. Maria Volkov remained as director of United Earth Command. She guided humanity's cautious expansion into the galaxy, always remembering the day they had faced extinction and survived. On her last night on Earth, Yelena walked through the forest near her home. She touched the trees, felt the soil beneath her feet, breathed the air. This world had been her home for so long. Leaving hurt more than she expected, but it was time. She had done what needed to be done. Humanity would grow without her now. They would make mistakes. They would face terrible dangers. But they would endure. She believed that with all her ancient heart. As dawn broke, Yelena's house lifted into the sky one final time. The structure transformed, shedding its disguise to reveal the ship of crystal and starlight beneath. Nicole stood on the ground below, watching. The ship rose higher and higher until it was just a bright point against the morning sky. Then, it vanished, jumping through folded space to destinations unknown. Nicole stood alone in the clearing for a long time. Finally, she smiled and turned back toward the village. She had work to do, messages to deliver, a galaxy to explore. 6 months later, the Vorath Empire received a priority transmission from Admiral Krazoth. His report detailed everything that had happened at Earth. The encounter with the Ancient, the destruction of their fleet, the warning to never return. The Imperial Council debated for weeks. Some argued they should send a larger fleet, one strong enough to overcome even an Ancient. Others pointed out that the legends spoke of the first walkers as nearly godlike in power. The fleet they had sent was already massive. A larger one would require stripping defenses from critical systems. In the end, they made a decision. Earth's solar system was marked as forbidden territory in all Imperial charts. A red designation that warned all Vorath vessels to avoid the area completely. The Council also issued new orders. Search the archives. Find everything recorded about the Ancients. Learn their strengths and weaknesses. Because one day, the Empire might need to face them again. But that day would not be soon. For now, Earth was safe. Humanity looked up at the stars with new eyes. They built better ships. They explored cautiously, but steadily. They found some of the ancient sites Yelena had described and learned from what they discovered there. And always, they remembered the old woman who had stood between them and annihilation. The witch from folklore who turned out to be real. The ancient being who cared enough about humanity to break her own rules. In time, Earth built monuments to honor her. Statues of an old woman with kind eyes and terrible power. Children learned her story in schools. Baba Yaga became more than a legend from the past. She became a symbol of hope for the future. The message was clear to all who heard the tale. The galaxy was dangerous. Empires would rise to challenge humanity. Threats would come from the darkness between stars. But humans would not face those threats alone. And even when they did, they would stand and fight. Because courage mattered. Because some things were worth defending even against impossible odds. Because an ancient being had once looked at humanity and decided they were worth saving. And humanity would prove, again and again, that her faith was not misplaced.